At least 30% engineering seats go vacant every year in over 3,000 technical institutes affiliated by AICTE. The data suggests that nearly 2 million seats have gone vacant between 2019-20 and 2023-24. Besides, the placement level also remained below 50% during this period. Hello and welcome to The Print. This is Faria Iftikhar, and today we will be discussing about the issues pertaining to the technical education in India. I'm joined by Professor Ram Gopal Rao, who is former Director IIT Delhi and Group Vice Chancellor BITS Pilani. Also joining in Mr. Sumit Kumar, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at Team Lease Degree Apprenticeship. Thank you for joining us. Thanks a lot and welcome to The Print, both of you.
Thank you.
My first question is for you, Professor Rao. So you are from an IIT background, sir. You know that in IIT system, the number of seats are always less, and people want more and more seats there. Why, according to you, that there is this gap between demand and supply in other engineering colleges in India right now?
I think there is still a lot of demand for quality seats, in our tier one kind of institutions. These are all oversubscribed. Even, for example, in BITS Pilani, we have about 3,500 seats, on offer, and we receive something like over 200,000 applicants, right? The number of students taking the BITSAT exam is over 200,000 kind of thing. I think the problem lies with the quality of education. It's not so much with the number of seats or anything. When students see that there is a return on investment by paying a certain tuition fee, by going to a certain college, they can secure their future. They would not. There won't be any reason, for any seat to go vacant. And unfortunately, that kind of guarantee only a few institutions in India can offer, right? And that is the problem. I think, how do we improve the quality of education in all these tier 2, tier 3 kind of colleges, and how do we improve the faculty quality more than anything else? The problem is with the faculty quality, and also the internships. I think some of these are the kind of measures that we need to take. I think overall, where students see a value for the education that they receive in a certain college, those colleges are struggling with a large number of students wanting to get in, and then there are the reasons for mental stress because of those examinations becoming difficult. And I think that's the problem right now. To me, the quality of education is what needs to improve.
Mr. Kumar, would you like to add your opinion on this? Like, why every year the seats are going vacant in lakhs, not even in thousands?
Yeah. See, I think I would absolutely echo, what, the sir is also talking about, its quality of education. And I think what he started off with on the return on investments. Obviously, when you're making that kind of an investment, and, there was a time when medical engineering was supposed to be the sought after professions, right? And there were quite demand as well. But today you realize that even after graduating or becoming an engineer, and even coming from a premier institute, the kind of salaries which they are getting is not matching their expectation. And why that's not happening is, let's go to the grassroots level, is what, sir was talking about, is the employability factor, which comes in because of the inadequate infrastructure and the emphasis on certain the industry exposure, which many of these institutes are not able to provide. So pedagogy definitely plays a role. What they go through is not sufficient, specifically in a stream block engineering, because you really need to be dirtying your hand, not in a controlled environment, but you really need to be in an actual workplace where you gain that experiential learning, which kind of makes you more employable. So I think while we talk about the employability aspect, it's also now we're talking about some of the cognitive skills. While, an engineer may be technically qualified, but when it comes to the cognitive skills, which comes in more as a decision-making, critical thinking, collaboration, teamwork, are they really equipped to work in that environment? So the whole aspect of adaptability, largely, I think that's also a kind of concern. But, I think it all boils down to the pedagogy. And I would not, I'm drawing a, kind of a comparison here. Like we run a skills university and we have a practice called, mechatronics. We've got 100% placement in that, degree program. Now, why that's happening is because all the programs are industry linked. So everybody mandatorily has to go through that required hours in industry to gain that experience. And that kind of makes them the sought after people. So I
Yeah.
think we need to look at more industry academia collaborations where, the whole practical aspect is not happening in a controlled laboratory, but in a real environment so that can develop these skills which help them to become more employable, and also, when they become employable, which means they're getting employment, they can charge a wage premium because of the kind of exposure they've gone through. And because they don't get that wages expected is the reason why you realize that the vacancies are only increasing.
Professor, also, do you think that there are like some modern, like new age courses also emerging, and students are going for, like, for example, like data science or maybe AI, and not necessarily in BTech, like other degrees also are there. Do you think they also play a role in this like kind of crisis?
So I
No
think
problem.
one of the challenges in India is also the flexibility that exists in our education system, right? These new age courses are good. I know many institutions offering BTech programs in robotics and a lot of variety of programs, and where the industry is looking for employing these graduates. I think those programs we must encourage and ensure that more and more such programs are offered which are aligned with the industry. But there is also a second side to this problem, right? Let's say I have taken a BTech in robotics now, right? And then I want to pursue higher education, and then you have to take gate exam to pursue higher education in India. If you are going abroad in a place like US or any other country, those universities are much more flexible at any scale as compared to our Indian institutions. So Indian institutions are very restrictive when it comes to admission processes in the postgraduate programs. If I have taken robotics, now I need to take gate exam, right? Now, which gate paper would I write? If there is no paper in which I have done my BTech, right, I have to take mechanical engineering, but I may not have studied all the courses in mechanical engineering. Then my future job, future higher education prospects within India will get restricted. But I can, of course, go abroad. So that's always there. The second thing is, even our employment policies, the government policies. I was recently chairing, a committee where a CSIR lab, CSIR is our major, right, national laboratory structure. They advertise for BTech electronics graduates, right? They wanted to employ graduates with electronics engineering. They wouldn't even shortlist IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, IIT Kanpur AA graduate from the electrical engineering department. Why? Because these departments are known as electrical engineering, not electronics engineering. And whereas their advertisement said BTech in electronics engineering kind of a thing. Now, but all these departments have been there for 60 years, and in all of these departments, the students can choose whether they want to graduate with more electronics major or power electronics or microelectronics or communications. The courses offered, the degrees are similar to electronics engineering, but they were not able to shortlist these graduates because the department name appears as electrical engineering, right? With such
Yes.
restrictive policies of government of India, right? Even if you look at some faculty advertisements in various government of India institutions, they are very specific: BTech in electronics engineering, MTech in this particular thing. And I think with those restrictive policies, sometimes these new age programs which are required, which are good, which are more aligned with industry, tend to suffer. That's also something that AICTE needs to look into, right? At the end of the day, our recruitment processes, particularly when it comes to government institutions, in a private sector, for bits pilani, we really don't mind, right? I mean, if I need to hire a faculty member, I would just go by how good is the faculty member. These days, for example, you come across so many faculty applications where somebody has done BTech in let's say electronics engineering, but would have done PhD in mechanical department, working on some MEMS, NEMS kind of technologies. We really don't mind because for us we only look at the how good is the candidate in that particular area of specialization and we hire. But I can tell you in a public funded university today, that's a complete no-no, right? They specify to the last detail what your degree needs to be. I think we need to at some point need to even look into these restrictive policies of government recruitments, and until we do that, the new age programs will tend to suffer. So for those who are trying to pursue higher education in India, are looking for employment in the government sector, private sector wouldn't matter, going abroad wouldn't matter. But then not everybody is similar. Some people want to pursue higher education in IITs and other places, and also want to get into a government job. I think they will always struggle with these new age programs.
Professor, now you just mentioned about going abroad. Do you think, like, since the number of students going abroad increasing every year, it is also affecting, like, in filling the seats here in any way?
That will, for sure. I think, as the income levels grow, right, as the admission processes are simpler in many of these universities abroad, today, getting admission in any second tier university in the US is any day easier compared to getting into any of our tier one institutions, right? I mean, it's a known fact. I can, like, even the famous Narayan Murthy's quote that that how easy it is to get admissions into those Cornells and Stanfords, and how difficult it is to get admission into tier one institutions. So I think that still stands. And given that income levels have grown, and given that the easy loan schemes now, there are multiple ways one can secure a loan to go abroad. And people also see that now things are changing, unfortunately, but for a very long time, they also saw a good return on investment, right? I would go to a good school in the US, I can pursue a career, earn that money in a couple of years and pay back my loan. All of that was, very well laid out kind of a process. Only now we need to see, with the change in the leadership in the US and all other countries struggling a little bit, putting restrictions on international students and visas and all that. So we don't know how it will pan out. But until now, that was something, which was really growing year after year. And I think for the reasons that I mentioned. So.
Yeah. Mr. Kumar, what according to you are the most pressing issues with the placements right now in these technical institutes? You have already mentioned about the employability factor, but what other things are there? Like why students are not meeting the demand of industry and how this can be bridged?
I think it will be, again, need to go back and tie up, with what they have gone through. And as I said, that definitely there's a lack of the cognitive skills and the employability skills, what, the employers are looking for. Because while it may not be just the technical skills, but today, the way I would say the technology is influencing certain job roles or, certain activities, or let's say simple skills. I think what is really critical today are the human skills. I think while artificial intelligence is going to take care of some of the basic stuff, but it's how the human capability is going to make use of the technology. And what are those human skills that we're talking about? And again, I would like to repeat that whether it's collaborative, the teamwork, their ability to, make the choices or right choices, which is related to your critical thinking and decision making, I think those are some of the skill sets which are very, very, important today. So while, what our statistics suggest that while an engineering today, the employability rate is about 60%, which means that even I may be technically qualified, but however, because of my employability factor, it's only 60%, which makes them more, restricted to just 60%. A regular graduate is about 50%, and an ITI is about 40%. So, I think something which we really need to take care in the institutions or while they're studying, that it's not just about your, the knowledge, the technical knowledge that you're gaining, but how are you going to conduct, how are you going to operate in a real work environment? I think that's something which is very critical. I think one more thing you also spoke about that, why people are moving only towards a certain kind of programs, because it's, you realize that, there is a more of a herd mentality that everybody know it's IT, data science, something talking about. But I think what people also need to be cognizant about that where the economic growth lies for next 3 to 5 years. right? Because then it's all about continuity in the learning. I may get a job, my first job, because of my education background, but then you realize that where the economic growth is leading to is where I need to also upskill myself. For example, today when we talk about, we were always talking about mechanical, but today if you look at the way electronics is taking, is like ruling in the automotive sector, and the demand for those kind of people has really gone up. Now, whether it's drone, whether it's EV, whether it's EV mobility, I think that's a growing sector. But will that be sufficient maybe 3 or 4 years from now? May not be the case. Today we're talking about the renewables side of it. Now that's an thing, and then you realize that there's a scarcity of people. Semiconductor was another area where you realize that India is talking about the investment, but where is the talent that lies in semiconductor? So I think we also need to be cognizant of what's happening around us from an economic activity point of view, where there is a possibility of the job which are there. Now, while that information is available, whether as a 12th standard pass out, do I have that maturity and sensibility to process that data or information so that I can accordingly pursue? Now, it's again going to be tussle between my interest versus the returns that I expect to get. Now, that's where a person will have to compromise, or let's say or I would not say compromise, but we'll have to strike a balance between it. So I think there's a lot of awareness which also has to start kicking in from the school point of view, that how that career counseling, where is the economic growth, economic development happening? And one thing is, even when you graduate and even when you are in the job, the continuity in the learning is like an essential today for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Today, I think whatever qualification I have will possibly take me to 3 years, but
Absolutely.
if I have to go beyond that, I will have to reskilling myself to be employed.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Professor Rao, what according to you are the immediate reforms we need in the technical education, both in terms of like quality and also like to improve the placements?
I think the internship scheme that government has started is a right step in the direction. For example, I can give you the BITS Pilani example. I moved to BITS Pilani about 2 years ago. As you know, 25 years I spent time in IITs. What BITS Pilani does is something what the whole country needs to do, including IITs. There is what is known as the practice school in BITS Pilani. One full semester, student spends time in an industry. And that is not by the student writing to 100 industries getting a placement. Institute arranges for every student on the campus an internship, which is what is called practice school in the industry, which is a paid internship. And that is a commitment on the part of institution. Every year, over 3,500 students are placed in industries for that one semester, practice school, and with an average stipend of 50,000 rupees. Last year, I was looking at the data. The total money students received, cumulatively from the industries as internships, stipends was 120 crores. 120 crores was the money students received in a year as stipends from industry for the practice school. I think these are the good practices. And BITS Pilani, thanks to the practice school, half of the students get placed in the practice school itself. And then for remaining half, we need to look for, of course, there is a placement cell and all of that, which takes care of it. And I think these are the practices that we need to follow. We need to mandate that. I think in India, all these government, requesting industries to do that, all of that is not really working out. I think industries have a responsibility, to associate with academic institutions, whether it is for research activities, whether it is for training opportunities. I think all of that needs to be done, for some time through policies or through incentive kind of mechanisms. And once it becomes a norm, once it becomes part of our culture, I think these things over a period of time will also get addressed. The second thing is also, I think we need to create jobs. At the end of the day, given the large number of students who are graduating, right? And any new technology you look at, right, whether it is AI, ML, or the large language models and all of them, all the white collar jobs will get impacted by the AI kind of tools. All the blue collar jobs will get impacted by the robotics and automation kind of tools. So then how would you even employ more people, right? If the efficiency of individuals is going up for the same job, if the efficiency of individuals is going up, I would need fewer people to execute the same task, right? The counter argument to that is, because efficiencies are going up, the productivity will increase, and that increase in productivity will require more people, right? So therefore the economy expands, absorbing more people and all of that. But that expansion is happening through automation and through AI kind of tools. You really don't need so many more people, right? And particularly India, where service industry is the one which employs so many people, and these are all catering to some projects in the US and some projects in the West and some government of India projects. I think they receive these job orders and then they employ people to execute the entire job, whatever task that they have, for which they have been paid. And I think if I can do that task with fewer people by using all these tools, I would obviously want to cut down on my expenses and increase my profit margins and all of that. I think, in this kind of a situation, creation of new jobs is something very, very critical for India. India is investing in research. Now, there is a major quantum mission. There is a major cyber physical systems mission. There is a major AI mission. Now, the question is, how do all these research missions generate jobs? Right? Jobs will not come from research. Research only produces new knowledge. Research only produces new papers or even new IP or intellectual property and all of that. Somebody has to make use of all this knowledge, all this intellectual property to create new processes, to create new products, to create new services, which will then employ more people. I think linking research to innovation is the need of the hour. And that again can happen only when academia and industry collaborates with each other. Academia is very good at doing research, right? India is ranked third in the world today when it comes to the research activity. But when it comes to innovation, we are pretty poor. We are ranked 40th or 39th kind of a thing. But there is not much of that knowledge getting used to create new products or services. I think that can again happen only when academia and industry collaborates with each other. And that's again a biggest bottleneck right now in India, with academia and industry working in silos, right? Industry is not spending enough on research, right? Indian industry is only spending 0.2% of GDP on research today, right? Whereas you look at Israel, you look at US, you look at South Korea, anywhere from 4% to 7% of GDP is the money spent by industries on R&D. That's why, many from industries located in these countries come up with new products, new services, new ways of doing that, which create a lot of new jobs, which can absorb people. I think India's problem is industry not spending research, not spending on research, industry not collaborating with academia, and industry's inability to create new jobs is the bottom, is the reason why, all of these job problem currently exists. I think we need to address it through policy incentives, or through or whatever incentives that you would provide, policies or financial incentives. I think government has now announced that 1 lakh crore fund for the private R&D, right? I think that's a step in the right direction, and hopefully some of these will help industry to invest money in R&D, develop new age kind of products, and then you require more people, and then that's how the country can solve this problem. I think a lot of things need to happen. The business as usual is not going to take us anywhere.
Correct. Mr. Kumar, what will be your suggestions to, and what according to you are the reforms which have to be immediately implemented to fix this problem?
Yeah, I think one of the steps to add to what Sir mentioned, I think he's covered a very beautiful point on the research side of it, and as he rightly mentioned that it's the private sector which needs to come forward, because if you look at some of these evolved economies, the 70% of the financing of research happens through private sector, where in India it's the other way around. India spends 60 or 70% of the research is happening through the government, the corporates or the industries are only contributing to 30% of the financing of that part. But beyond this, I think one is also that, very recently, under the new education policy, the UGC has come up, or let's say, I would say the ministry has come up with this AEDP guidelines. Now, AEDP guidance is basically apprenticeship embedded degree programs.
Yeah.
Now, while UGC has one, how they're trying to implement, I think AICT is also viewing those guidelines to see how these apprenticeship could be embedded and how you could have 50% of the skill component, which could be, added to it. And I think while the policy has been there, the guidelines have been set up, it's the adoption. I think that's something which is very critical. I'm sure what like IITs and the Bit Pilani is doing. That's phenomenal work in certain areas. But I think there are larger section of the these institutions. They, I think, need to improve their pedagogy. They need to improve their curriculum. They need to improve their infrastructure. And I think AEDP adoption would be very, very essential for them. That how do they bring in more skill component to their curriculums? And then how do they execute it? Again, for execution, it cannot be done in a bilateral manner, which has been happening in it traditionally. It has to happen in a more tripartite manner, which will be, the arrangement between the academia, the industry, as well as that student. So how the three of them have to work together, and how, academia and industry have to jointly execute these programs. Industry cannot just wash away their hands that I will just put the some bit of know-how, but even in the implementing of the program, industry needs to be equally participative.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Professor Rao. Thank you, Mr. Kumar, for sharing the insights. It was great having you at ThePrint. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you.